Hi guys, my name is Becc. Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to do a little bit of a different talk. I want to tell you about my experience in healing from severe trauma and the way that spirit has worked in my life, and really the mechanisms of that, because it's so important. It is my teaching, this weaving in of the higher self energy and the way that that can free you. So I've got some notes to the side here to help me stay on track. But basically, I had some really difficult experiences when I was trying to heal from satanic ritual abuse, or otherwise known as MK Ultra. They're a little bit interchangeable, a little bit different. But so that means that in my childhood and growing up, I was in a cult-like environment, organized crime, and it was very, very traumatic. It's probably the nightmare of our society. It's yes, it's very disturbing. It's also spiritually abusive as well. And so when it came time for me to, when I got free from that, I escaped from that, and then I was looking to heal, it obviously left me with really severe post-traumatic stress symptoms and dissociation type of symptoms, which is just another expression of trauma coping. And I had a lot of points where I was really breaking down because I was so overwhelmed with the wounding that I had. When you have this type of experience, developmental trauma as well particularly, you're kind of left with many different wounds. Like, I sort of half joke, but it's real, that I kind of was left with every negative core belief that a person could possibly have. Almost every wounding, because it's such detailed and intensive trauma. And so I had psychotherapy, and I was also doing some spiritual healing things. But I found that it wasn't working for me because basically I know now that I was making my process much too mental. But yeah, I had a lot of points where I was very suicidal, and basically I didn't want to be here. You know, my life felt like it was continuous suffering. It was tremendously overwhelming to be flooded with feelings from trauma, from traumatic events every day, sometimes for every minute of every day, to be trying to also, the healing itself, facing that and working through that is so, it takes so much strength. It's so heartbreaking. There's so much grief and loss involved. With every new memory, it felt like my heart broke a little bit more, that with everything that I faced, because you come to you're aware of what you missed, and you grieve that you weren't happy. So I was really, really overwhelmed, and on top of that, I was a really sensitive person. Obviously, if you see my channel, I'm very clairsentient, claircognizant, a natural channel, all of the clairs. So this severe trauma on top of my sensitivity was very, very damaging. It's a miracle that I'm alive. Honestly, it's a miracle, and that's why I say now my life feels like a beautiful miracle. So many moments I literally cry because I feel so blessed to be just having a normal life, you know, to just be safe, to just like have the abundance to buy my cat food. You know, there were points where I was really struggling with supporting myself and all of that after that experience. So you become incredibly grateful for everything. So in my struggle to really heal, I kept breaking down, and I basically had a surrender, a moment where I was just like, I can't do this. And I felt, and I was facing that everything I was trying to heal wasn't working. All the techniques I was using, they weren't working, not in the way that I needed them to. I wasn't coping and I wasn't healing. And I basically, from that moment, after that point, I disconnected from all the healers that I'd been working with, except for my psychotherapist. It was probably the only thing that was helping. And I decided to listen to my intuition and my heart 100%. And I decided to trust in everything that I got, because I was like saying to Spirit, I don't know what I'm doing. And Spirit was saying to me, trust, and to stop doing this excessive mental work that I was doing. And basically from that moment, I started to have a lot of awakenings. I call it kind of like enlightenment school, because when I started to listen, my guides started to really teach me. And so I really went through a lot of heart awakening moments. I had some very high vibrational experiences of coming into contact with oneness and the isness through that surrender of just finally accepting the pain that was here, and finally accepting that this smaller self, I didn't know what I was doing or how to do it. And that surrender, that space, that non-resistance is what gave the room for my spirit, my higher self, to help me heal. And my willingness to try and to try to trust, which was a great willingness, because I didn't have any other option. I felt like I was going to die, by my own hand from the pain if I didn't just try what my guides and things were sharing with me. So this enters the doorway into probably the point of this talk, which is about the higher self. So what I really had to do was to stop all the mental me-ness and really give up and let Spirit take over. And I started to learn all about how we're supposed to heal from my guides, and from my own connection. And I learned, I healed. Like, I healed things that I had been working on through other processes for years. This type of severe trauma shouldn't be able to be fixed or healed in a moment. But I had multiple moments where, when I let Spirit come through me, that trigger or that trauma or that flashback or that pain or that emotion, it just dissipated. It just went away. And that's what I mean about when I say that I've experienced miracles. To me, that was a miracle. I would kind of sit with my higher self and kind of just say, work through me, please just move through me. And I would, in your kind of mind, you're kind of trying to be out of the way. So I'm out of the way and I just let go. I have an intention for what I want to work on, like maybe I was crying about something, or there was a bad memory. And I say, Spirit, please move through me. And I also have a willingness to participate in whatever way my guides and my Spirit suggest. So this is just one example of the way that I began to heal, and what I want to share with you guys about healing is that, so saying that example, I'm sitting there with that emotion. My guides would say, okay, and breathe, or okay, and like let your body move, or sometimes they wouldn't say anything at all and I would just breathe. So often they would say, you have to be willing to let go of this. And even just energetically, that was the message that I got, that healing gets really stops or kind of choppy, like it's not as good as it could be if we're not in that total surrender place, because behind all of it we have identification with our emotions and our feelings. They build together to weave like a personality. But if you want to weave the Spirit in, the personality needs to dissolve. Meaning the personality is just a concept of who you think you are, which is built on certain beliefs and emotions. And my guides were saying you need to be willing to let go, because the surrender that I had to be in was, yes, take this feeling or take this emotion away from me, no matter the cost. No matter if that meant that I had to go through another intense purification of that feeling. no matter if it meant that I kind of lost a part of myself. I, you know, my personality changed in some way. I had to be willing to let go of the beliefs. I had to be willing to change. And that's what the ego doesn't like, you know, our mind doesn't like. So I would kind of receive that from my guide, and she would say, you need to just let go. And so I would try to feel for where I was holding on. It's very intuitive. Healing needs to be intuitive. And I would feel, okay, I'm still holding on. And I would just breathe and intend that I let go. Maybe there's fear that I needed to soothe for a moment. And then I would say, yes, I'm ready, when I felt ready. And my guides would, like she would be standing in front of me, and she would kind of, they have their hands out like this, which is just an energetic visual to convey what they're doing, which is helping me to release. So it's really me that's releasing, but the guides can support you, and it can help you to feel held as well and to access your higher self, because your guides are parts of your higher self. Together they make up your higher self. So I would let go, and then sometimes the feeling would just be gone in that moment. It would wash and it would go. And then I felt this lightness and this spaciousness, and or the feeling that I really needed on the other side of that negative emotion. So if I was working with a sadness, I would start to feel, when I let go, in a moment I would start to feel happiness. If I was working with a loneliness, I would start to feel held. You get the medicine back that's been blocked by that distortion. The natural innate frequencies that are innate to you and your higher self that are already here. They're already here, they've just been blocked. So it's not like you're adding anything new, you're just releasing the blockage and the limitations that you've had on yourself and your energy. Sometimes it would come up and my guides would say, okay, now you're gonna feel a sadness, or you're gonna feel that terror again for a moment, or you're gonna feel tension in your throat. And I would feel this wave of, like, exactly what they said. It would come up, and it would, you know, I would feel it for a moment, and I just had to trust, like, okay, I trust, I'm safe and I'm held and I'm feeling this. And then it would eventually dissolve. Sometimes you would have to do this multiple times with energies. It just depends how much you're holding on. It depends how much trauma is there. But even immense trauma, if you are willing to let go and you feel safe enough to let go, and you're not in your mind trying to understand and figure it out, which is half the problem for all of us, you can just be free in those moments. You can just let it go. You don't have to understand every part of everything. You don't have to remember everything. The thing is, in this process, if I'm meant to have a wisdom born from that through understanding what happened, or if I need to see a memory or something for some kind of learning, the higher self will only show you things that are of purpose to you and love to you. It would come up in those moments where I'm feeling the emotion. It would be in my mind, or the insight would come later. The wisdom about what happened would come later. It does come to you. And I really learned that that was the opposite of what I'd been doing. Before that, I had been really using all these different mental processes to try to understand core beliefs, to understand, like, what's my inner child doing, da-da-da. And it just was honestly like a bit of a waste of time, and it was painful because it kept me in my mental mind. And when you're doing it in such a way that you're kept in your mental mind, those thoughts and the mental space, that focus it actually feeds the pain or whatever you're working with. We have to be present, we have to be not dissociated into the mental mind, and we have to feel safe in order to heal, in order to let go. That's not to say that you shouldn't use mental processes, or that I don't at all either. It's just about understanding when you're using it to just figure stuff out, and you're kind of exhausting yourself in that way, or you're not letting your spirit come in that way. It's a nuanced thing that you have to be willing to feel for. So that is kind of this magical thing that started to happen for me. And, you know, that process of taking in those new frequencies, I love calling that spirit weaving, because that's what my higher self, she told me that that is what we're doing. I think that other people have spoken about this concept. My guides gave me a visual of like, here's your higher self and here's me, and there's an exchange of energy. So you're over here in your energetic vibration, they're over here in their energetic vibration. And when you are allowing enough and in the right kind of meeting that high vibrational energy halfway, so you're feeling safe enough and loved enough, even if there's pain, we can get to that halfway. Then you can begin to entrain your vibration with the higher self. So my guides are calling it higher self entrainment. So if you think about that and what I said earlier about frequencies, that makes a lot of sense. The frequencies are coming, sort of being sent to you. That's why I would feel like my guides are handing it to me. It's being sent to you from your higher self, so to speak, and being asked to allow it in, and you have to be willing to release and relieve yourself of what's been in the way. And then obviously you are in training with the vibration of your higher self. If you do this back and forth with these, you've got to see these little frequencies zooming around, right? This exchange happening. If you do it back and forth and you're releasing your old self, eventually you are going to become one. That's the visual my guides gave me of these two selves merging. And that is the process of spirit weaving, of higher self integration, and that is what we're doing here. So understanding that process and understanding the simplicity, I think, is really, really important. But so let me keep talking about, my journey, because this is where all the wisdom comes from. And I kind of worried about talking about myself like too much in teaching, but I understand, and my guides supported me in that my message is my life, you know, at least some of it. The wisdom that I have, that I've learned, is because I suffered so much, and I had to make my way back. And I hope that, and my guides and my higher self intended before I came here, that that embodiment of that life would be a message of love, basically, that using love and using spirit, the love of your spirit, you can come back from anything and you can heal anything. That's what I really want you guys to know, is like that you can transform anything that you're going through. You just have to have kind of the right foundations of safety and love, and you need to be willing to use your intuition. You need to be willing to change. You need to be committed to your process. You need to be committed to letting go of yourself every day. And you need to be committed to love. So, yeah. When I started doing that, I started to, obviously, this whole time I kept having more kind of awakenings. And in that process of receiving those different frequencies, this is where we can, you don't have to, this will happen even if you don't have a conscious awareness, but you can begin to remember your past lives, which again, that makes sense, right, if you're integrating with the higher self. And so I started remembering my past life experiences. And in remembering my past life experiences, what I found was that I could kind of go into them and I could receive the frequencies of that past life experience, even in the memory of that. It's like the point of the memory was that my higher self was sending me a frequency that I needed to entrain with. And so I would kind of, in that moment, what it looks like is I just kind of say, okay, I'm receiving this. And I have to concentrate, you have to stay focused. And I have to let it come in. And then I would start to feel it in my body. So, you know, maybe a life of where I was very peaceful. I've had lifetimes as like a monk person. And all of these frequencies that would come through and these memories of my past life, they would be exactly what I needed in that moment for whatever kind of emotional stuff or themes I was moving through at the time. And I say was, but it's still happening now. So yeah, it's always the exact medicine that I needed because you are doing this with this life and your higher self perspective. Um, so, and then with that process of in training with your higher self, you're regaining who you are. So you can also regain spiritual abilities that you had in past lives. Again, they haven't really gone. They've just been, you've had a limitation that your mind has put on it. So I started to be able to do even more magic and stronger channeling and weaving of, one of my gifts now is that I can pull in the right spirit medicine from shamanic lifetimes. I was dancing one morning, so I remembered a spirit dance that I would do. This is another thing. The way that I'm healing is that in the mornings I get up and after washing my face and stuff, I usually breathe and focus on my heart, and then more and more I dance. And that's because my unique spirit was very much a dancer in very much like lots of lifetimes. And this spirit dance is a way of channeling. And when I was doing this one morning, I realized, well, I was just doing it. And I was doing it because I was feeling restriction in my body. I wasn't feeling good. And I noticed that when I would move, it would change my emotions. When you move your body, you change your emotions because you're changing your energy. And as a natural channel, that's something I really need to do. So I was moving like this, and then my intuition and my being was like, I am a river, I am a river. And I just felt like, it's so weird, but I felt like I became a river. And I'd let my higher self take over because I'm channeling right in these moments. So I kind of let my higher self take over even more. I was like, okay, something's happening. I'm out of the way. Please move through me. And I was doing these really cool movements, and then I felt like water. And like there wasn't like physical water, but I physically felt like I was a river. And then I've been able to do that with other things like the sun. I remembered the sun dance, which I wrote a blog about, where I used to be doing a prayer for my community in this past life, and I would be like, it's called the sun dance. And I would be in a temple and I would dance the sun and dance with that energy. And now I did that and I feel the sun energy. And it's like I did it to cleanse my room the other day, and the room became sun. I felt like hot, like it was amazing. So you have the capacity to remember who you are in this very tangible, visceral way if you commit to your own natural unfoldment process and you make it intuitive. But yeah, so I was doing that, and I still do that stuff for now. And I also had to make a big choice to heal. This is the other part of what I wanted to say today, is that for a long time I was also really struggling because in the background of my mind I wasn't committed to being here because felt like being here was painful, and I wasn't committed to trying to make myself happy. I was basically kind of running around, running away from my power and not taking responsibility as well for the wounds that are here. Of course, the abuse that happened was not my fault, and if that's happened to you, the trauma and the wounds that we have are not our fault, but it's a responsibility thing when you're out of it and you're like, the question should become, what am I going to do now? Who's going to look after me now? The only person who can take care of you in the way that you want and need is you. And that's really painful, I understand, when you feel powerless or when you feel overwhelmed. And you can get support, and you should get support. But you are the one that gets you support, you know? And then that support is supposed to feed back into you and make you more aware of your own power. So we're not relying on other people, and we're not codependent with other people or the universe. I had to really be like, okay, I don't know how, but I'm going to heal this. And that's what I wanted to share with you guys is like, I know a lot of you have had similar experiences in terms of having a trauma background or just having a difficult time being a sensitive being. And I really want to honor how difficult that is, but I also want to share with you this truth that you really have to decide in yourself, I'm going to heal. And the decision to do that has to it comes from a belief that maybe I do have the power, at least maybe. And so many of us, I think, are stuck in the powerlessness and not moving past it and not wanting to take responsibility for kind of the wounds that are here. But you deserve to take that responsibility because it is the doorway to empowerment and freedom. When you do that, you will get your power back. And the more that you do it and the more that you're like, oh, I did heal this, or I did this little cool thing, the more empowered you're going to feel. Then you're going to have more access to your power because you trust more in it. But honestly, the way that I'm healing, I do want to be honest, every day is a commitment to being courageous and being like, okay, I can build this, I'm doing this. And I have to remind myself all the time of how strong I am. And sometimes I don't feel like that at all. I still, things are much better than they were, but I still am a survivor and I still have difficult days and triggers come up. But I have to just keep going back to my spirit and going back to my heart and doing what my higher self says, doing what your intuition says, even if you're scared or your mind is saying other things. When you follow your intuition and your heart and you are like, I'm the creator, I can create, I'm doing this, your life will change. And you will be standing in, and I just point to my life because I have been homeless, I have been just so broken. And now it's like a miracle that I'm sitting here talking to you guys. And you can have that life that you imagine where you have abundance and you have safety and you have good relationships and you have joy. But you have to create it. You have to change your energy. And you can do that through spirit weaving. And really, if all of this sounds like there are more processes to that, and if you do my unfoldment courses or sessions, we learn that together. But ultimately, it's about connecting to your higher self and trusting your intuitive process. And also taking responsibility for yourself and every day making little changes. And this is how you will weave your spirit into your life, and it will be magical and beautiful and perfect just for you. It will be the perfect life for you. When you do these exchanges with your higher self, you see that everything that's happened in this life is unique to you, and your past lives, they make you realize that it turns out that this life makes total sense. And I've had lots of past lives as like a being who's very in touch with the isness of life and this higher dimensional truth. And I needed that so that I could anchor that here and now, so that I could learn this and I could teach you guys about this. There was probably no way that I would survive otherwise, not in this deep way. I also remember that I had to, when I first incarnated, my guides, my Pleiadian guides and things, we anchored me to my heart in this really intense, magical way. There was this thing about, I'm going to stay connected to my heart so that I can always come back to my heart. We're all always have access to our heart in this life, but my Pleiadian origins really helped me, and we did some interesting energy things to make sure I always had some access to that. And that is why I'm so talking about the heart with you guys, and it is a big part of why I'm here. And I just hope that me sharing this message with you and sharing everything that I'm doing with you guys really helps and serves you, because it really is my highest joy to be here and sharing with you in this way. And I don't know what I want to say. I just love to everyone that's watching this. Please honor yourself and know that you can rise, you can transform. It's already here. Everything you need is inside of you. For a long time, my guides were saying that to me, and it would annoy me because I felt so powerless, and I felt like, what are you talking about? This is like, this crazy situation, I can't. But I look back at the notes and the channelings that I got through from then now, and everything they said was absolutely correct. And the most common thing they said was, Everything that you need is inside of you. There is no outside door. You need to go in to your heart, your unique higher self, and follow your intuition, and you will be free, and you will be woven into your beautiful spirit. And that's what we're all collectively doing, and I'm in love with it. I'm in love with that process. It's why I'm here. It's why I like doing the work that I do and watching people bloom. It's the gold weaving into here and now, and it makes any darkness so much more beautiful, and it makes it cherished and sacred, the beauty that you are and the life that you are.